Welcome to Voodu Warlock 2023, Episode 9. I am level 9. And here I am in beautiful Tangaroa, public area for Isle of Dread, just released a couple weeks ago. All right. Let's see. Quests I've done since the last episode. Not too many. Did some Isle of Dread quests. And it's the first time I've done them on Heroic. Wasn't really sure what to expect in terms of difficulty. We were fine. I did nearly die on the deck of the ship of the very first quest, the one that brings you out here. There's 3 wizards at the end, and they're just all cyclonic blasting me, knocking me down, just couldn't get up. And one of them was a champion, and yeah, I thought I was going to die for sure, but it was very close. So I did 4 there. I guess I didn't do anything else but 4 Isle of Dread quests. Done one other. I guess not. And we're going to be doing some Isle of Dread quests today as part of this episode. So, level 9. Gear. I got some changes because I did switch over to Enlightened Spirit. Okay, so now, and I'm doing that just for this episode. I will be switching back to a blaster for episodes 10 and 11, and then finally switching back to Enlightened Spirit into tank mode for the rest of the series. As I mentioned before, I like to play Enlightened Spirit at 12 because that's when you get your second burst. It's pretty lame before that. But I wanted to demonstrate that at level 9, I think it becomes more tolerable to play. I still don't like it, and I don't typically switch at 9, but you become more tanky. So if you need to play as a tank earlier than 12, 9's not so bad if you can stomach living with just a single burst. And I'll mention more about that when we cover in the enhancements. Let's talk about gear right now. So I did get a bottle of rum from out here in Isle of Dread, and this is one piece of gear I'm using from here. This is kind of a neat little Lobi dagger. It's got Vorpal, Bleeding, Tendon Slice, a red slot. I put my Ruby of Snow Peaks in there. That's a level 8 Ruby, and should be making this a level 8 item, but it looks like I don't see the level being affected. I thought that was a level 8 Ruby, but in any event, that's giving it Freezing Ice and some additional cold damage on hit. And that's part of the Dread Isle Curse if you want to go for that. It's not a bad set for sure, level 7 set. And the dagger I was using before was the Spectral Dagger that comes from the Halloween event, Night Rebels. And that's got Ghostbane 2, Evil Outsider Bane 2, Crushing 4. It was really the slot on the bottle of rum that made me want to move over to it. They both have interesting features. One is that the Spectral Dagger is made of force. Never take damage, and it's good to use for like rust monsters and oozes. You don't want to use other kinds of weapons on those because those weapons can get damaged and become unusable until they're repaired. But the bottle of rum is made of glass, so also safe to use on rust monsters and oozes. Now, melee DPS, even when we're in Enlightened Spirit, is not a focal point of this build. So that's one of the reasons why I like the Vorpal feature on both of these, because, hey, if I roll a 20, I can insta-kill a mob just like anybody else. And I'm doing a little bit of supported DPS along the way, just having fun swinging a weapon at a mob. But I can't emphasize enough that melee DPS is not a part of this whole thing. But, just pick, if you want a weapon to swing around at mobs, whatever you like. If a caster stick works better for you, that means some kind of one-hander that has caster stats on it, that's fine too. I also have a level 8 Spectral Throwing Dagger. It's exactly the same stats as a Spectral Dagger, except it's a throwing weapon. Just a fun toy to have. Nothing necessary. I did get some mana pots out of the bank just in case we need. it's always good to have some sort of backup source. This is not a mana-intensive build by any means. It's rare that I run out of mana, but, you know, you never... Just in case we need. And speaking of just in case we need, the Twisted Talisman is a mana clicky. I haven't really talked about mana clickies because this is not a mana-intensive build. But, you know, this is an easy low-B item to farm out. It has 3 charges of Blood Sacrifice. That gives you 50 spell points per charge. But it does 25 damage to you. But be careful. This item, the damage it does to you does scale with every skull in Reaper mode. And when you start stepping up the skulls, this thing can get really deadly. I have killed myself a couple of times with this item in High Skull Reaper. Thus, I have affectionately dubbed this the Suicide Necklace. So be very, very careful about using that. You know, if you're stepping up the skulls or if you have low health, because it does damage you and that damage does scale in Reaper mode. But if you're looking for a clicky, that's a pretty easy one to farm out of the end chests of the Last Stand in Red Fence. I just wanted to show this ring is something I pulled out of here in Isle of Dread. It's got Radiance 66, so that's cool. I am benefiting from Radiance, as I will explain why. I want to go over enhancements. It's got Spell Focus Mastery 2. That's nice, too, to have some sort of general spell focus. You know, we're not a DC caster, but it's definitely a good idea to have some sort of general spell focus. Helps your web DCs a little bit. We don't have Everett's Black Tentacles yet, but we will next level. So it'll help that. So I just thought I'd show that since it's something I picked up out here. It doesn't have Radiance lore, though, so that's why I'm not really a big fan of these rings. There's a whole bunch of these kinds of rings with different combinations of spell power on them in Isle of Dread, but the lack of lore makes them, to me, not that great. I think there's another set of rings that does have lore, so you would want to couple them up, but then it takes both your ring slots, or maybe it might be another item. In any event, there is another item that has lore out here. As I said, Isle of Dread's only been, actually, it's been out a few weeks now, and, you know, I haven't memorized all the gear yet. All right, some scrolls, True Seeing. You know, you never know when you might need that. If you don't have it on your gear, definitely good to have some scrolls. Greater Heroism is great buff. +4 morale bonus on attacks, saves, and skill checks. So skill checks like Intimidate, use Magic Device, Concentration, +4 to saves. That's awesome. So hell yeah, I scroll that part of my buffs. And I have scrolls of Stone of Flesh. I actually just use really those primarily in one place, and that's in the quest Eyes of Stone. So I can bypass getting the Stone to Flesh salve. I also have a lot of healing scrolls. You can see I don't mess around. I didn't just buy 100 stack. I got 400 healing scrolls, okay? And I didn't just get... I didn't just get one kind. I actually got 2 different kinds of heal scrolls. So these here, as you can see, are bound to character. I got those from the guild vendor. And they're a little bit less expensive. So some people prefer to get their supplies from the guild vendors in House K. However, I like to get the regular unbound ones from like the vendor in House J, even though they're a little bit more expensive, because when I'm doing a Reaper dungeon, and you know, so if one of my friends runs out of heal scrolls, I want to be able to pass them some. I want to be like, hey, here's 100 stack on me. But if I have all the bound ones, then I can't do that. Okay, so I want to have lots of them. I don't want to run out. And the reason why I have the bound ones as well is because these are coded differently. So normally, like, if I go through this stack, this next stack will auto-populate in my hotbar. But because these are coded differently, if I go through all these, if I happen to go all through all these and I forget to get more, this will not auto-populate. So if I run out of heal scrolls on the fly, I know that I've got this 100 stack as a backup to get me through whatever quest that I'm doing, and it reminds me, hey, you got to go get heal scrolls. So I like to do that just as sort of a little helpful reminder for me, a little tip from your Uncle Voodoo. Whether or not you want to do that, that's up to you. But running out of healing supplies in the middle of a dungeon sucks, as I demonstrated during the chronoscope. I ran out of scrolls, and it became harder to heal myself with just the wands. So we can effectively heal ourselves with heal scrolls pretty well for the rest of heroics. We're just going to be doing R1. What other gear? So I do have my Ring of Spring Storms that has my Sonic Lore and Resonance. I used to have the dagger that had that, but since I changed the weapon, since it's, be swinging a weapon more because I'm Enlightened Spirit, that's the close quarters, bursting, and aura playstyle. And I think the Ring of Summer's Heat's the same. I don't think anything else is. Oh, my armor is now medium armor because I now have medium armor proficiency through my Enlightened Spirit tree. So the stats are the same. Lesser Arcane Casting Dexterity to mitigate the 5% Arcane Spell Failure from my Feral Crystal Shield, and Invulnerability gives me a little bit of damage reduction. It's not very meaningful, but it's just one small layer of defense. Let's talk about enhancements now. So like I said, I switched over to Enlightened Spirit just to demonstrate that at level 9, I think it's third rank into 9 maybe, you have enough action points to where at least I have enough action points to get to a place where I find it, palatable to play the Enlightened Spirit. And there are 3 things that I'm really looking for. 1 is the medium armor proficiency. With the heavier armor, it gives me a better layer of defense. 2 is brilliance. This enhancement is absolutely huge, and when you're new to Warlock, it's really easy to read by it and not truly appreciate how awesome it really is. And it's even more awesome because we're a Constitution build. It says your aura provides you and nearby allies with a determination bonus to temporary hit points equal to your Constitution score. So right there, what most players will do is look at their Constitution score and go, it's 37 temporary hit points. That's stupid. And then they just move on. And they never look at it again until somebody brings it to their attention. And that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. This ticks with every tick of your aura. And right now, my aura is ticking every 4 seconds. Once I get to here, my aura will be ticking every 3 seconds. Once I get to here, my aura will be ticking every 2 seconds. Okay, and my Constitution is going to keep climbing. So this is going to give me, right now, right now it's 37 temporary hit points every 4 seconds. So that's a buffer of temporary hit points that I'm putting out there to absorb incoming damage. If you're level 20 or higher, the effect is doubled. By the time I get to endgame, my aura is pumping out about 200 temporary hit points every 2 seconds. 200 temporary hit points every 2 seconds, and that's huge. And that's a nice buffer to absorb incoming damage. I mentioned earlier in the series how Warlocks, especially the Enlightened Spirit, but I mean really others who benefit from, others who like to use Staunch, they don't really do a whole lot of self-healing. There is Steel Life Force in the Soul Eater tree, which we won't be, spending any points in Soul Eater, at least once we get to 12. In early levels, when we're Blaster, we are. That gives some actual real healing. But the big sources of temporary hit points, like later on we're going to get Shining Through, we got the Aura and Staunch. You're putting those temporary hit points out in front of the damage, absorbing incoming damage before it does real damage to you. So it's almost like proactive healing. Healing out in front of the damage instead of reactive healing. When somebody takes damage, you heal them to full. We want to put those temporary hit points out in front of us and absorb that damage before it causes real damage to us. So Brilliance and the medium armor proficiency from Enlightened Spirit are very important for me when I'm tanking. And so I want that if I'm going to switch over to Enlightened Spirit, and I can get those at 9 and still have enough points to work over here to Staunch. If I'm going to be tanking, there's opportunity for me to be taking a lot of damage, and Staunch is a wonderful, wonderful emergency heal. And we won't get Shining Through, which is another really nice big boost of temporary hit points until level 12. So Staunch is going to be there for us until we get that. That's going to be a big emergency heal. I had to knock out a couple points of one Scroll Mastery. It's okay, we'll fill that up. We get a couple more points. I had to knock down the Strong Pact. I did pick up Underdark Blast. This is really nice. This converts your base Eldritch damage, which is normally Force, to evil damage. And the benefit of that as an enlightened spirit is that the enlightened spirit does radiance, or it does light damage, right? So you want to boost your light damage, and you boost your light damage with radiant spell power. And then if you're doing force damage as well, like I was before, then you need to have, a kinetic lore and an impulse item. Well, if you convert your force damage to evil damage, that's now affected by a different spell power. That's now alignment damage, and alignment damage is also affected by radiant spell power. So I can now use radiant spell power to affect my base eldritch damage, which is now evil, as well as my light damage from the enlightened spirit tree. So it's combining spell powers, basically. That's why I run with Underdark Blast on. But the big things were Brilliance, Medium Armor Proficiency, and Staunch, having those 3 components before I really want to start tanking. So if you, like I said, if you feel like you're in a group, you need to start tanking before 12, those are some components of it that are going to make it a lot easier for you. I think anything else changed. Let's see what else. Reaper points. We do have Core 2 Reaper. And I mentioned before earlier in the series, I think I did, but it's worth mentioning again. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people who've been playing this game even since Reaper mode came out, that your cores, at least cores 2 through 6, are always on. Core 1 is only inside Reaper mode, and all this stuff here is only inside Reaper mode. But cores 2 through 6 are always on. And there are huge benefits from there. Stats, huge spell points, hit points. So next level, we'll be getting tier 2 up here, but now I got core 2s at level 9. Favor rewards, I picked up the 5 hit points from Gatekeepers since the last episode. I haven't been talking about my ability scores, but every 4 levels you get an ability score. This is a Constitution build. I'll be taking Constitution all along the way. And for feats, I did take Maximize. If I had planned, I should have thought this out. I thought I wasn't, at the beginning of the series, I thought I wasn't going to be playing Enlightened Spirit till 12. But I decided I should go ahead and do it at 9 to demonstrate that it becomes more palatable. But I really should have taken Empower instead of Shield Proficiency. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? Because it's going to be a better demonstration, because Empower and Maximize affect our bursts and aura. They do not affect the blast. That's why it wasn't important for me to get it sooner. I just figured as long as I have Maximize and Empower by 12, I'm going to be fine. Not expecting to take, just to do the Enlightened Spirit episode at 9 just to demonstrate. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go into the market and do the little free feat swap. And then we can demonstrate how that works, just in case you're really new. I mentioned this before. Mention it again. And we'll actually do it. I don't think I've ever done this as part of any of my series. We'll do the Hall of the Mark. And you can do this at any level. And once you answer these questions, you're going to be entitled to 1 free feat swap. What is House Fjarlin's secret business? That would be espionage. Mark of Warding appear, and amongst whom? I think that was the dwarves. 2 guilds are operated by House Neath. That would be Defender and Blaze Mark. Which house is the greatest military power? That's Neath. Where did House Jurassico finally settle? I think that's here in Stormreach. Which skill does the Mark of Making improve? That would be Repairing. Which now lost Mark appear with Mark of Shadow. That would be Mark of Death. Lady Vol brought that back to us in the raid Mark of Death. Thank you, Lacania. Now I'm entitled to 1 free feat swap from Fred in House J. Now, the answers to those questions are in those books that are on the pedestals of that quest. That's a solo-only quest. You can also look up the answers on DDO Wiki, so that you don't have to read through all those books. You just DDO Wiki has all the questions and answers right there. They're easier to reference. But you could do what you want. You only get to do that once per life. But after you reincarnate, not epic reincarnate or lesser, but any of the other forms of reincarnate where you start a new life, you get to do that once and get that free feat swap. And I'm going to go ahead and swap out the shield proficiency for empower. Pass it. It's under meta magic feats. There we go. And the cost is free. Reset. Now, after this, after your freebie, you can swap it out using astral shards. You could swap it out using dragon shards and plat. If you do it that way, I think it's only every 3 days. If you do it with astral shards, you can bypass that 3-day wait. Okay, let's go back to Isle of Dread. Let's make sure that we load up Empower. Remember, you have to load your meta magic feats into your hotbar and click on it and see that little circle, that little box going around it for it to activate. So maximize and empower do affect your bursts and blast, or your bursts and aura, but not your blast. I also want to mention that I do still have, well, how about that? Resetting that feat. Reset this. Okay, well, we'll just pick this up again. We don't want that, that, and that. Good enough. Change shape back there. I wanted to mention that I still have change shape for situational use. And we'll turn Utter Dark Blast on, and that changes our base force eldritch damage from force to evil damage, thus affected by radiance. Which is why I no longer have the other ring. There was another level 5 Feywild ring that I can't remember the name of it, that had, you know, impulse and kinetic lore. All right. We are going to go do some quests. I don't even know which ones. I'm just going to go over the ones on the west side of the map. I've only done these quests about 5 times each. I guess we'll get on the Raptor. That seems more appropriate out here instead of the Nightmare. I love the aesthetics of Isle of Dread. Straight A's. I do have, you know, some criticisms of Isle of Dread, but aesthetically, I think it's beautiful. I really think they nailed it perfectly. Let's see. There's a quest up there. Whatever one that one is. Let's go do that quest up there. That seems pretty close. The Trouble with Tar Pits. Okay. And really, I just wanted Isle of Dread to be bigger. I would have liked to seen a Slayer Zone that was like twice as big. I would have liked to seen more of the source material represented, however minor some of those encounters might be. You know, when we see these classic modules, you know, we want them to be as true to the source material as possible. I think there's some really easy encounters or mini quests they could have added to represent more of those encounters in the wilderness from the original module. I also would like to see the dinosaur bone crafting system be a little bit more versatile. But I'm planning tentatively to there's one other thing that I should have done, and maybe we'll do it after this quest. I'm planning tentatively to use an artifact necklace. So the other thing I wish I should have done, and I do want to mention, that if you are going to switch to playing an Enlightened Spirit as, you know, your frontline tanky role in your party, sooner than 12, then I would recommend that you take the spell Displacement first. I decided to take Dimension Door first because I was gonna do the range thing until 12. But if you're gonna do the tanky thing, doing the Enlightened Spirit thing earlier than that, I would recommend taking Displacement. That's 50% miss chance due to concealment, and that's a big layer of defense. Not even gonna bother with the Lost Souls because, like I said, this build does not use a lot of mana. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna swap a spell for free. That's something else, I can show right here on, that Fear Reaper can die in a fire. If he follows me, fine. But I'm not gonna stay there and fight him while those archers are shooting at me. What do I look like? Some kind of guy who wants a bunch of archers shooting at him? Okay, there's the Fear Reaper. Remember, Fear Reapers, you need to get close or far away. In our case, since we're bursting and auraing now, that means close. We're the one, as the tank, that are up in the faces of these mobs, taking the hits, intimidating mobs, so that our friends, our party members, don't have to get hit by the mobs. It's our job to gather up the aggro of the mobs and take the hits, so that other people can do the things that their build was designed to do. And if you've never really played with a tank, as I mentioned before, I love to play with a tank. It's a lot more organized, and I really appreciate that organization that a tank brings to a party. Instead of everybody jumping around like a jackass just trying to stay alive. I like, when a tank gets the aggro and everybody else can, the spellcasters can hang in the back and shoot their spells, the range tunes can hang in the back and, do their thing, and the melees can, stand behind the mobs that the tank has the aggro and not get hit as often. It's just a preference. Jumping around like a jackass is a very effective playstyle. It's very good. It's a very good way to stay alive. Because I mentioned before, the more you move, the less likely you are to get hit. You can go up there as a key you can get and avoid getting hit by, on Legendary, there's mobs up there shooting down at you. But I guess on Heroic, there's not. Like I said, this is the first time I've done these on Heroic. So that would be an advantage to maybe not going this way. But even on Legendary, we've been just going this way, just getting across here real quick instead of dealing with all that nonsense up there. I'm not an expert at these quests, so I'm not going to be good at explaining every optional. I don't know, there could be named chests that I'm missing or something. Like I said, I've only done these quests about 5 times each. And this is my first time on Heroic. These are good XP so far, I will say that. Like right now, I have no idea which way I need to go. I don't remember. That's okay, we'll just go this way. I'm not really having a problem with my defenses. So, I was taking some hits in some other quests. But now that I picked up Empower, I'm killing mobs faster than when I didn't have it, so I'm not taking as many hits because I'm killing mobs faster. And there's 2 important schools of thought to consider. And this is, you really see this in the way that people play and people's attitudes towards the game. One is that, one of my favorite sayings is, when you're dead, your DPS is 0. And some people will go their whole DDO lives and not learn that very important basic lesson. That when they're dead, their DPS is 0. So you first have to stay alive to do the things that your build is supposed to do. But there's another school of thought. The other side of that coin is that if the mobs are dead, then they can't do any damage to you. So some people are just all about just killing the mobs as fast as possible. And then, they don't have to worry about taking damage because the mobs are dead. Me, I like to build for survivability and balance, but that's not a very popular way to build. There's a lot of min-maxing in the game, but some people like to build for balance, and some people like to build for survivability. And as I said before, this build is not going to be for everybody. This is an off-the-beaten-path tank for somebody who wants to play a tank, but doesn't really want to play a traditional tank, wants to do something a little bit different with a little more versatility. 18,000 XP. And by the way, in here, if you're getting chased around by mobs and you need kind of a getaway, you can run back here and those mobs can't follow you because it's such a tight squeeze. So it just kind of helps you stay, you know, put some distance between you and the mobs. You can kind of run back here and they have to go around. So just buy you some time if you need a little extra time to throw some heal scrolls or something, or you're just trying to stay alive. All right. I'm going to teleport to... I'm just going to go to the marketplace. I know there are trainers in Isle of Dread, but that's okay. It's actually more convenient for me to... I should have just teleported to the portable hole. They would have been right there. In any event, Warlock Trainer right here, just in case you didn't know, you can, for classes that don't have a spell book, meaning you can't sit there and change out the spells that you have memorized at a rest shrine or in a tavern, like clerics can do that, wizards can do that. Warlocks, sorcerers, favored souls, bards, they have fixed spells. But once every 3 days for free, you can go to one of your trainers and say you'd like to exchange your spells for a different one. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and swap out Detour for Displacement. Boom. And you can do that for free. If you had a Blood of the Dragons, which you can find as a rare drop in a dragon chest, or you can get it from the store, you can eat the Blood of the Dragons and it gives you a 1 hour buff. And for 1 hour, you can change out as many spells as you want at your trainer. So if you need to swap out a lot of spells, you can want to do Blood of the Dragons. But if you just need to change a spell or two and you're patient, you can just do it for free every 3 days. One for free every 3 days. Just enjoying some root beer here. I love root beer. All right. Now we're going to go back out into the wilderness and try another Isle of Dread quest. And let's go ahead and put our new spell, Displacement, on the hotbar. Now, I wasn't having a problem with survivability at all. But I've got a lot of past lives and Reaper points that have really helped me out. If you don't have that, you can make your own choice. I recommend picking up Displacement, but if you're not having an issue with survivability for the difficulty you're doing, or maybe you have past lives and Reaper points, or you have really good gear or something like that, you can take Detour first. It doesn't matter. You're going to have them both in the long run anyways. It's just whichever one you want first. You can decide based on your own needs and wants. I ain't here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to give you some advice. And what you want to do with that advice, that's up to you. As I said before, one of my buddy Nimvin and my guildie and fellow content creator, one of his favorite sayings is, you're paying to play the game the way you want to play it. And there's so many different ways to play this game. You can role play, you can play permadeath, you can, do casual, family-friendly questing, or, what they call flower sniffing, and I don't use that term as a pejorative. If you like to move slowly through a dungeon and do all the optionals and read all the dialogue, that's great. It's a great way to play. If you like to zerg, you like to raid, whatever. Do R10s, do R1s, do mid-skull, high-skull, whatever. It's all good. Now, sometimes the challenge is finding people who want to play the game the way you do. If you like to play the game a certain way, then I would recommend that you make an effort to try to find people who enjoy playing the game the way you do. And I have a video called Finding a Guild, or How to Find a Guild. Did I go out the wrong way? No. Where are my quests? There's one. What's that? Bamboo Grove. I don't know what quest it is, but that's where we're going. I have a video called How to Find a Guild, which really tackles the bigger topic of how to find people to play this game with who enjoy playing the game the same way that you do. And there are resources for you. There's guild forums on DDO.com. For every server has its own servers forum and its own guild sub forum for that server. Because some play styles just don't mix well. You know, when the Flower Sniffers group with the Zergers, ain't nobody happy. Oh, this is all hail the king, baby. Hell yeah. We're gonna fight a T-Rex. Dinosaurs are so beautiful in Isle of Dread. I would have liked to see the T-Rexes maybe be like 25 to 50% bigger. But the dinosaurs are just so beautiful. Shocked that they did not include Dimetrodon, because a Dimetrodon seems to me ought to be a simple reskinning of a giant crocodile, but you know, they could have just run out of time. Okay. Up here you're gonna see the T-Rex cross. I think it's right up there. Yeah, there's the big boy we're gonna face later on. Haha! And I'm purposely running by all this stuff because I want to show you something. We don't kill individual mobs very quickly, but we deal in volume. You see, on this build, you can kill 25 mobs at the same rate as you can kill a single mob. And here's what I want to show you. I'm just gonna sip my root beer here. And I'm not even bursting. Just let that aura do the work. Ah, yes. That's good root beer. Looks like my displacement ran out, so I'm gonna go ahead and redo that. And if I want to, I can burst. Okay, so sometimes it's gonna be advantageous to you to just kite mobs together into a group. Because like I said, you can kill 20 mobs, 25 mobs, the same rate you can kill a single mob with this aura and bursting playstyle. So if I see groups of mob, then I know I can just bring 3-4 groups together and kill them all at once, instead of me trying to kill every group individually, or every every monster individually. There's a collectible up here. I'm starting to learn these quests. I remembered there was a collectible up here. Where the hell do I go from here, though? I think there's like a little clearing or something. Remember, we got web if you want to. Sleet Storm is awesome. I have freedom of movement through my tree. Sleet Storm and web is really good crowd control. As I mentioned before, Sleet Storm is one of the most underappreciated spells in the game. It is an awesome spell, but people hate it because, you know, it affects your party member. If you don't have freedom of movement, it affects you. Okay, but if everybody's got freedom of movement, then this is a great crowd control spell. It has a no save blinding effect. No save! And it slows mobs down. No save! So like if we're not a DC caster, like, oh, I don't know, this build, I can throw Sleet Storms just as effectively as a DC caster. Yeah, I knew there was a thing for me to click on. So, learn to love Sleet Storm. That's what I say. There he is. He's got a really nasty... he's got some nasty breath. You know, this was a big surprise when we were going against him that first look. And he roared and he did that AoE sonic damage. Oh, man. So you want to be far away from him. You know, if you're not the tank, you want to be like all the way against the wall back there. Because when he roars, it is deadly. On High Skull Reaper, it's insane. Go ahead and hit my spell power boosts. Single target DPS is definitely lackluster on this build. But remember, DPS is not a focus of this build. But it's worth mentioning that lack of single target DPS is a traditional criticism of the Enlightened Spirit. And if you're looking to add more single target DPS, one thing you can do is choose the Carcery Storm Pact, and that comes with 2 cold dots. Actually, 3 cold. I think 3 cold dots. It has, I think, Creeping Cold, Greater Creeping Cold, and Nyx Biting Cold. And you've got Ice Storm as well. So you can add a formidable amount of single target damage if you spec for cold. If you want to. Just an option. Like I said, you can do this build with any pact you like. I like Fey Pact because of Misty Escape and because of Odo's Irresistible Dance, is a really nice single target crowd control. And I love using Odo's Irresistible Dance on, like, you know, a nasty Reaper or a nasty Champion or something like that. Tearing them up with that bottle of rum. I don't even know what comes from here. Let's just re-roll for fun, see what we get. Mythic 3, nice. That's insightful. I said earlier that there were lore items. Maybe I was thinking of these insightful items. Man. I mean, I don't want that. But Mythic 3 is pretty nice. Let's see what else we get. Meh. All right. Let's do one more quest. There's got to be another quest around here somewhere. We'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Then I'm going to spec back for probably cone shaping. There was something south of us. Spiders and flies or something. Where the hell's that pixie village? Did I miss all that? Let's get on the raptor. And look for a quest. That's like the edge of the world or something there, the edge of the island. No, looks like there's a quest up to the north, so we'll just go that way. Oh yeah, I think that's the pixie village up that way. Such a good looking place. I'm so happy, so much happy. Look at those, there's pterodons or pterodactyls or whatever. Such a nice touch. The brontosaurus is absolutely incredible. Stunning. I mean, that was one of the most memorable moments when I did the first look for the wilderness areas. I was underwater in the river, and I happened to come out right in front of a brontosaurus, and I was like, wow, that is awesome. And I love the fact that they made them non-aggressive. I think they did the ambiance that a brontosaurus adds. I didn't think they would add them. You know, I did a little conspiracy theories video months ago about what we could, you know, the kinds of things we could expect to see, and we kind of looked at. This will open up the teleport spot, I believe, once you get that. You know, I looked through the old module to see what kind of things we could expect. And I said, you know, in that video, I said they probably won't do Brontosaurus because it's not a very exciting dinosaur, you know, like to fight, you know, just like fighting a big cow. But they actually added them and made them non-aggressive, and I love that decision because I think they add incredible atmosphere. All right, what's this? Trials of the Triceratops. Okay, so this will be the last quest of this episode. So once you have displacement, you're going to want to have displacement on you at all times. Oh, another thing I want to mention, I mentioned that I had this piece of gear before, which is the Death Ward Clicky from the Skullduggery cap. Again, end reward of the final enemy. 3 charges of Death Ward, 10 minutes per charge. Awesome, awesome item. A level or two ago, I started doing quests where I was getting level drained. So I was like, okay, loaded that up on my hotbar, and that's just part of my buffing. Let's just run by these clowns. Right? We deal in volume. But you're going to want to, you know, once you have displacement, you want to keep it up at all times. Maybe this doesn't open until we kill them. I don't know. Like I said, man, I haven't done these on Heroic. I've only done these a handful of times. Okay, I guess we're gonna go the other way. Yeah, that lever opened up this. And that big gate is just sort of a preview of the arena, I think. It's all fuzzy. You could do this with, like, you know, Fey Pack or Fiend Pack, it hurled through hell, although I don't know how good your DC would be. It's been a long time since I've done a Fiend Pact. And, you know, while this, you know, this build does not solo quickly. You know, I always say it has the ability to solo, but it does so at a modest pace. And that's one of the nice things about you play these no DPS tank builds, and they're great. If all you want to do is tank, that's great. I want to do a little bit more than that. You know, it's nice to, you know, I've played no DPS tanks, and they're super, super tanky, and that's great. I'm not disparaging pure tank builds. But I can't fight my way out of a wet paper bag with them. You know what I mean? Can't solo anything. This build can solo. Doesn't do it very quickly, but if I want to solo farm a quest, I can. It's nice to have that option. But, you know, if you're wanting to, like, you know, do High Skull Reaper more handily, if you want to push the difficulty of your raids and start doing, like, you know, step up the skulls in raids, well, this may not be the build for you, especially if you're trying to step up the skulls in raids. As you'll see at endgame, in this series, though, I will be doing 10 skull quests as part of this series. But when backed by a bunch of past lives and Reaper points, that does make, you know, a significant difference. And it will for any build. But if you don't have a bunch of past lives, it's okay. Don't worry. You know, one of the worst things that a new player, or the traps they can fall into, is feeling like, oh man, if I don't have 100 past lives, I shouldn't even show up. That's not the case. You can do a lot of great things without all the past lives. The past lives, you know, they will come. If you want to build your toon's power, you can do that through past lives, and that's great. That's a feature of the game. That's what gives the game longevity. It gives you something to keep grinding for, keep playing for. It's not there to make you feel bad because you don't have them. Yeah, I just started a new project toon, and that toon, you know, when I dusted it off after being on the shelf for 6 years, you know, I had like 3 past lives and 12 Reaper points, you know, like nothing. And I'm in the process of building up Reaper points and building up past lives. And that's great. I guess this was an optional. At least got a couple collectibles out of it. Displacement on at all times. Bursting is great for getting breakables. Hell yeah. I guess we're going this way now. I'm gonna run by those guys. We'll see if they follow me. I'm gonna run by those guys too. See if I can get this door open. Nope, it's locked. So, requires me to kill them, I assume. Alright, still locked. Maybe because were there mobs back here that didn't follow me that need to die? Usually if if a lever's locked and requires mobs to die for it to unlock, usually it's just a group of mobs right in front of it. So if it, I mean, but a little bit surprised that, yeah, I'm surprised that that previous group had to die too. Remember, Sleet Storm is your friend. Although if you're not playing Shifter, then you probably don't have freedom of movement at this level. Although you could have Kundrak Delving Boots at this level. Those are level 9. And I will be wearing Flightfoot Greaves next level. Those have freedom of movement as well. But like I said, with having freedom of movement in my enhancement tree and my racial tree, that gives me the option to possibly go with another set of boots. I've only played this build as a shifter maybe once before. I did shifter as my last racial, and I'm so glad I did too, because you know, it's so wonderful for this build. I don't like how they look, but all the goodness in the tree is great. Constitution and the defensive stats are great. All right, guys, get out of here. Is there a lever back there that I didn't pull? Yep. There we go. Displacement on all the time. By these clowns. Looks like I can go ahead and rebuff. My buffs only have a minute left on them, so I'll hit them all. Hey, how about Web? How about Sleet Storm? Yeah, when you gather a big group of mobs together, Sleet Storm is delicious. Look at them, they're all getting caught up in the web. They got missed chances because they can't see me in the Sleet Storm. Flip sliding around. Oh yeah, but we're not sliding around because we got freedom of movement in our racial tree. Or you can have it with your Kundrak Delving Boots if you prefer. Those come from the Vault of Night raid. Or at level 10 you can get it from your Lightfoot Greaves. Oh, I fell asleep. Damn. It's the hero's soul. See how long it takes us to kill a single mob. It's not fun running around killing single mobs. So in this situation, we could switch to like chain shape. Well, these guys aren't even close enough for it to bounce around. But if you do have mobs that don't want to kite together, you can switch to chain shape, and that way it'll bounce around. As long as it's not hitting you too hard. Because when you switch to chain shape, you don't have your aura on. And your aura is an important layer of defense, giving you all those temporary hit points. Constantly with every time your aura ticks. Now, Light Bear, watch what happens when he gets down and... Oh, I thought he was going to heal up. I thought he was one of the champions that heals to full when he goes down to half. Now, if you got wings or something and you're like a ranged or caster or something like that, you can actually like wing over to one of those ledges. Pew pew from above. You can also climb some of these rocks. I think those rocks over there you can climb. It's a Triceratops. Displacement on. A new shape to watch out for. The dreaded triangle. I mean, rectangle. Displacement up. Boss DPS. You know, like I said, single target DPS sucks. And so when you're beating down a boss, it can be terribly slow. Now, if you have good defenses, sometimes you could just put on auto attack and just kind of kick back and, you know, let it do its thing. You know what I'm saying? We're just doing R1. It's just heroic, so it's not particularly slow. But, you know, let's say you're trying to solo a, you know, Reaper 3 or 4 Skull legendary quest. You know, you get to the boss, it's slow. You know, you can sit there and I can sit there and put on auto attack and focus blast, and you know it takes 2 minutes to beat the boss down. But I have the defenses that a lot of the bosses can't do significant damage to me, so I just will put it on auto attack and do something on my other monitor. But some people don't have the patience for that. You know, some people would rather, you know, have their fingernails pulled off with a pair of pliers than, you know, take 2 minutes to beat down a boss. So if that's a problem for you, like I said, this build may not be for you. Build is not for everybody. You know, it's not designed to solo. It's just that it has that option if you want or need to. Its primary function is the tank role in group play. All right. Well, as always, if you have any questions, you can make a comment to this video. You can post on my build post in the Warlock forums. Or you can stop by the Twitch live stream. That's a nice one, but I don't need it. That's the heroic one gives ethereal. The legendary one gives a ghostly. The legendary one is nice. You can stop by the Twitch live stream and ask questions right there and get answers to your question in real time. We'll see you soon.